The rain tapped rhythmically against the tinted windows of the luxury SUV as it idled in gridlocked Lagos traffic. Horns blared in frustration, and hawkers weaved between vehicles with trays of plantain chips and phone chargers, shouting over the downpour. Inside the car, Vanessa Olumide, 38, a woman whose name echoed through boardrooms and luxury event halls, scrolled through her phone with a practiced indifference. Her sharp black suit, barely wrinkled despite the long day, spoke of power, precision, and wealth. She was the type who moved through the world untouched by its mess until now. A sharp honk jolted her eyes upward, ready to complain about the delay, but something on the sidewalk caught her breath. Through the wet glass, she saw him, a ragged boy, maybe 8 years old, with torn slippers, mud-streaked shorts, and hollow cheeks. He crouched low beside a limping stray dog, its fur matted and patchy, its ribs pressing against its skin. In the boy's hand was a nylon bag, inside a small, half-wrapped pack of jollof rice. Slowly, deliberately, he peeled it open, broke the rice in two, and placed half before the dog. No words passed between them, no hesitation. They simply ate side by side, two survivors sharing what little they had, unbothered by the world rushing past. Vanessa stared, her phone slipping slightly in her hand. Her breath caught, something in her chest slung locked away beneath years of stone-cold focus and relentless ambitions, turned uncomfortably. She lowered her window slightly, letting in the damp scent of rain and street smoke, watching the boy with furrowed brows. Why, she murmured aloud, almost to herself, would a hungry child give away his only food? A soft voice from the front seat announced, "Traffic's moving, Ma." Her driver eased the car forward, merging into the crawling lane. The boy and dog disappeared behind them, swallowed by puddles and motion. But Vanessa's gaze stayed, fixed on the side mirror, her reflection now blurred not by rain but by something deeper. That image lingered, refused to fade. Something in her life had just shifted, and she wasn't sure why. Vanessa Olumide moved through life like a chess master, strategic, precise, always 10 steps ahead. The daughter of a Lagos real estate mogul, she had inherited not only her father's wealth, but his ruthless ambition. After his sudden stroke left her the sole heir to the sprawling Olumide Holdings empire, Vanessa transformed from a quiet, observant young woman into a calculating business titan. She rebuilt the company in her image-cold efficiency, zero tolerance for failure. Her staff spoke of her in hushed tones, admiring her brilliance but fearing her presence. In boardrooms, she was revered. At charity galas, she was tolerated because she donated out of obligation, not compassion. Her philosophy was simple: life is business, and emotions are liabilities. Behind the tall glass walls of her Banana Island mansion, Vanessa's world was immaculate but lifeless. The floors gleamed, the air conditioning whispered. Artworks lined the walls, curated by professionals, not passion. There was no music, no clutter, no laughter, no photos on the shelves, no signs of a home, only power. Once, years ago, that house was supposed to be filled with joy. She was engaged to Daji, a man who had cracked her icy shell, who'd made her believe in soft things like shared futures and weekend picnics. But the car crash that took his life a decade ago also took the last piece of her heart. She blamed herself for convincing him to drive that night, for the storm, for the silence that followed. Since then, she'd shut the world out, not out of cruelty, but survival. Even her mother, once her closest confidant, had become a stranger, cast aside in one of Vanessa's emotional shutdowns. And so, she built a fortress of control, of calculated meetings and sterile solitude. Children had no place in her life. Feelings were neatly folded away in a drawer she never opened. Until Toby, only 8 years old, knew more about survival than most grown men. He lived in a narrow wooden shack tucked behind a decaying market strip, along with his 17-year-old sister, Amara, and their frail grandmother, Mama Iabo, who hadn't walked in months. With their parents gone lost to illness, and Lagos had dropped out of school to care for the old woman and keep them afloat. Toby did his part, selling sachet water in the sweltering traffic, collecting plastic bottles to exchange for coins, and occasionally singing for tired Okada riders who gave him a smile and a few naira. Despite the harshness of his world, Toby's spirit remained strangely intact. He greeted strangers with wide eyes and a crooked grin. He offered help without being asked. And then there was Monday, the limping stray dog with the patchy fur and crooked tail. Toby had found him 2 months ago near the mechanic yard, injured and whimpering. Most kids would have thrown stones. Toby carried him home, fed him scraps, and gave him a name. Because everybody hates Mondays, he'd told Amara. But I love this one. Monday followed Toby everywhere, now through markets, across bridges, even in the rain. They shared meals, secrets, and warmth on cold nights. To Toby, Monday wasn't just a pet, he was family. A reminder that even the forgotten could love. 2 worlds, one polished and powerful, the other raw and fragile. One built on walls, the other surviving on scraps. And yet, on that rainy Thursday afternoon, they collided only for a moment. A silent boy offering half his food to a dog with no words, and a woman who hadn't felt anything real in 10 years, suddenly gripped by the foreign ache of empathy. Something she didn't have a name for, something she couldn't ignore. The image of the boy and his dog refused to leave Vanessa's mind. In meetings, during her morning coffee, even at night as the lights of Banana Island twinkled outside her bedroom, she saw it again and again, those tiny hands breaking rice into 2, those wide brown eyes filled with quiet acceptance, and that scrappy dog leaning in as if they'd always belonged to each other. It wasn't pity she felt. Vanessa didn't believe in pity. This was something deeper, unfamiliar, and unsettling. Days later, unable to resist, she instructed her driver to return to that part of town. He hesitated. Wasn't a place someone like her visited twice, but he obeyed as the SUV crawled through the broken roads and muddy gutters of the neighborhood. Vanessa sat forward, peering through the glass. Her eyes scanned the crowd of vendors and Okadas, searching. And then she saw him. The boy was sitting cross-legged on a cracked concrete slab beside an old barber shop. Monday curled at his feet. He had a piece of bread in his hand, breaking off tiny pieces and feeding them to the dog first, before taking any for himself. His face was dusty, his shirt a size too big and worn thin at the collar, but his eyes were bright, sharp, alive. Vanessa's chest tightened. "Stop here," she said. The driver frowned but pulled over. Before he could protest, she opened the door and stepped into the heat and noise. Heads turned immediately. A woman in designer heels and silk pants stepping out of a black SUV in this neighborhood was not something people saw every day. Toby froze, unsure whether to run or bow. Monday barked once, a low warning, but quieted when Vanessa knelt down slowly, lowering herself to the boy's level. "Why do you feed him?" she asked softly, her voice a mix of disbelief and something close to reverence. "If you're hungry too." Toby didn't flinch. He looked her dead in the eye and replied with the ease of someone who had made peace with hardship. "Because he's hungrier than me." The simplicity of it shattered something in Vanessa's carefully constructed world. She didn't speak for a moment. Couldn't. The air around her seemed to still, heavy with the weight of a revelation she hadn't been looking for. She reached into her purse and pulled out a takeout meal she'd brought from the office. Chicken, plantains, still warm. She handed it to Toby without a word. His eyes widened, unsure if it was a trick. When he realized it was real, he took it gently with both hands. Then, impulsively, Vanessa reached into her pocket again and gave him her business card. "If you ever need anything, she said quietly, though she doubted he'd know what the card meant. Toby stared at it like it was a magic token. He nodded, tucked it into his back pocket carefully, and without another word, scooped up Monday, and ran off into the crowd. Vanessa stood there for a moment, alone in the noise of the market, feeling the unfamiliar sting of tears behind her eyes. Something about that boy, his calm, his clarity, had undone her. For the first time in years, something had reached through her armor and touched whatever was left of her heart. She wasn't sure what it meant yet, but she knew this. She would return. Vanessa found herself unraveling in ways she didn't fully understand. Her once regimented days, meticulously crafted down to the minute, now bent around moments of staring out windows, wondering if the boy had eaten or if the dog was still limping. She no longer answered emails at lightning speed. She missed calls. Her meetings grew shorter, her patience thinner. One morning, she called her assistant Bola into her office, her voice low and urgent. "I need you to find out everything you can about a boy. His name is Toby, lives near Oberland, about 8 years old, has a dog." Bola blinked. "Ma, I'm serious." Bola hesitated, then nodded. A day later, she returned with a file sketchy but informative. Toby's parents had died 4 years earlier in a fire caused by faulty wiring in their rented flat. He and his older sister Amara had survived because they were outside fetching water. Their grandmother, Mama Bisi, took them in, but now she was mostly bedridden with arthritis and partial blindness. Amara, just 17, had dropped out of school to care for them both, selling water and doing odd jobs to survive. Toby helped by collecting scraps and begging when necessary. The dog, Monday, had appeared injured near the shack months ago. Since then, they'd been inseparable. Vanessa sat with the folder in her lap long after Bola had left. Their story scratched at her insides, like something buried too long. It was not just pity, it was familiarity, the loneliness, the loss, the isolation wrapped in pride. Her board began to murmur. Emails piled up. During a high-stakes pitch, Vanessa forgot her slides and paused halfway through a sentence. Her lead strategist sent a follow-up note. "Are you okay?" Then came the call from her mother. Unexpected. "I see. I hear you've become a charity worker." Vanessa was silent. "You couldn't open your heart to your own blood," her mother continued. "But now you care about a street child." Vanessa's jaw clenched. "It's not the same." "It is. You're trying to fix something in them you refuse to face in yourself. Start with your family." Vanessa ended the call before her mother could say more, her fingers trembling. Later that week, she returned to Oberland in her SUV, but in a discreet Toyota her assistant borrowed. She walked the alleys herself, found the shack, knocked. Amara opened the door, guarded, chin high. "Toby's not here," she said. "I'm here for both of you." Vanessa replied softly. She offered them a place to stay, temporarily a guest house she owned but never used. Clean beds, food, doctors for their grandmother. She even offered to cover Amara's tuition if she wanted to return to school. The offer was met with wary silence. Finally, Amara asked, "Why?" Vanessa's eyes didn't flinch. "I don't know," she admitted. I saw your brother feeding that dog, and something inside me wouldn't let go." Amara folded her arms. "So we're a project now?" "No," Vanessa said, voice cracking for the first time. "You're a reminder that there's still something good in this world, something I forgot existed." They accepted, cautiously. The transition wasn't easy. Toby adjusted quickly. He laughed at the size of the fridge, fed Monday roast chicken, watched cartoons like he'd discovered a portal. But Amara remained skeptical. She watched Vanessa closely, waiting for the fine print, the hidden cost. "People like you," she said one night over dinner, "don't do things for free. So what do you want from us?" Vanessa stared at her plate. "I honestly don't know. It was the truth. She didn't want applause, didn't need their gratitude. She just couldn't walk away. Not from them, not from what they stirred in her. Something broken, beginning to breathe again. Monday's breathing grew shallow by the hour. At first, it was just a limp. Then he stopped eating. His eyes, once alert and protective, dulled with pain. Toby noticed immediately. He stayed by the dog's side, stroking his fur, whispering, "You'll be okay, Monday, I promise." But the whimpers got worse. Vanessa called the vet twice, paid extra for an emergency home visit. The vet arrived, examined Monday carefully, and after a long pause, gently shook his head. "Kidney failure. Too far gone," he murmured. "There's not much we can do now but keep him comfortable." Toby's face crumpled. "But you said you'd help him," he cried, turning to Vanessa, eyes filled with betrayal and desperation. "You said he'd be okay." Vanessa knelt beside him, helpless. "I tried, Toby. I'm so sorry, but sorry meant nothing. Not now." Monday was his friend, his family, the only soul that had been with him through everything. That night, Monday died in Toby's arms. The boy didn't cry at first. He just sat, motionless, cradling the small limp body, rocking it slowly. When Vanessa tried to touch him, he flinched. "Go away," he whispered. "I should have given him more food. I should have taken him to the vet earlier. I didn't take care of him." He broke. Loud, guttural sobs racked his small frame. He didn't eat the next day, or the one after. He barely spoke. He curled up on the floor of the guest house, clinging to Monday's tattered leash. Vanessa sat by him, hour after hour, unsure what to say. She had felt loss, but never like this. Never this raw. On the third night, something inside her gave way. She climbed onto the floor next to him, her expensive silk blouse crumpling beneath her knees. Gently, she placed her hand on his shoulder. "I once loved someone," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was everything. My best friend, my fiancé, and one rainy night, I told him to drive out to meet Mevan, though I knew the roads were bad. He never made it." Her voice cracked. "He died, and I blamed myself. For years, I shut everyone out. Told myself I didn't deserve to feel anything ever again." Toby looked up, eyes swollen. "Then why did you help us?" "Because," she said, tears streaming freely now, "you reminded me that I still have a heart. You made me feel again. And I didn't want to lose that." In silence, the two of them held each other, grief meeting grief, soul touching soul. It was messy, unspoken, but healing. A few days later, under the mango tree behind the guest house, they buried Monday. Toby dug the hole slowly, tenderly. Vanessa helped lower the small wrapped body. Together, they placed a wooden cross above it, hand-carved by the gardener. Toby stood back. "He followed me everywhere," he whispered. "Now I don't know who I'll talk to." Vanessa placed her hand in his. "You'll talk to me, okay?" And for the first time, Toby nodded. In the months that followed Monday's passing, Vanessa began making quiet but deliberate changes, first in the lives of Toby and Amara, then in herself. She met with school administrators, pulled strings, and leveraged contacts until Amara was granted a full scholarship to one of the top private schools in Lagos. "You have a voice, Amara," Vanessa told her one afternoon, handing her the admission letter. "Use it. Learn as much as you can. The world needs more women like you." Amara, who had once looked at Vanessa with suspicion, now saw something else, a woman not pretending to care, but struggling to care better. Amara didn't say much at first, but her eyes softened, her shoulders relaxed, and her thank you came not from obligation, but trust. Vanessa didn't stop there. The image of Toby crouched in the dirt sharing food with Monday stayed with her. It refused to leave. She began consulting her legal team and philanthropy advisors. Within weeks, the Monday Foundation was born, a non-profit dedicated to funding education for underprivileged children in Lagos. beginning with Toby's community. She didn't want cameras or praise, no press releases, just results. The logo was simple, a silhouette of a boy and a dog. Sitting side by side, she bought Toby and Amara a small but comfortable 2-bedroom apartment near Amara's school, paid the rent through the foundation, ensured the grandmother received medical attention. Toby finally had a bed of his own, a desk, a tiny shelf with storybooks Vanessa had hand-picked. The boy who once shared scraps with a stray now had enough to eat, and more than that, he had a future that wasn't shaped by survival alone. But perhaps the most remarkable change was in Vanessa herself. She came to visit every Sunday. She brought groceries, sometimes flowers, once even a soccer ball, not out of guilt, not to play the savior, but simply because she wanted to, because she missed them, because their laughter filled something silent inside her. Neighbors would wave at her now. Kids would run up to greet her. Her assistant once whispered, "Ma, you smile more," and she did. Her mansion in Banana Island remained her home, but it no longer felt so cold. She'd started redecorating, moved her father's old portrait from the main wall and replaced it with a photo of Toby and Amara under a tree, grinning wide, holding up a small plaque that read, "For Monday, who reminded us all how to love, Vanessa Oyamide," once known only as a sharp-edged business titan, was becoming something new. A woman still powerful, still private, but with eyes that no longer avoided emotion. A woman rediscovering the grace of human connection. A woman healing, one visit, one child, one memory at a time. 1 year later, the Monday Foundation had blossomed into something far bigger than Vanessa Alamide had ever envisioned. What had begun as a single act of empathy, one fleeting moment on a rain-slicked Lagos street, had become a growing movement of restoration. Now, on a sunlit afternoon, children flooded the open courtyard of the community school the foundation had helped renovate. Colorful paper lanterns swayed gently in the breeze. Hand-painted signs bearing hopeful messages in Yoruba pidgin and English hung from every post. Smiles lit up every corner, real smiles, deep ones, the kind born from dignity regained. Vanessa stood at the side of the modest stage, her usually rigid frame relaxed in a simple linen dress. Her signature red lipstick remained, but there was a warmth now in her posture, in her eyes. She laughed easily with the volunteers and helped serve food to children she now knew by name. The once distant woman who lived behind the glass walls of Banana Island now moved like someone who had learned to walk barefoot again, closer to the earth, to people, to her own humanity. Behind her, a banner stretched across the wall. The Monday Foundation. Love isn't a donation. It's a daily choice. Toby, now 9, stood backstage, gripping a folded piece of paper, wearing a neatly ironed school uniform a few sizes too big, his tie askew. Amara adjusted it gently, brushing his shoulders like a mother would. She was thriving to attending school again, with dreams of becoming a nurse. Their grandmother, though still fragile, had regained strength and was seated in the front row, her eyes never leaving her grandchildren. The host called Toby to the stage. He climbed the wooden steps slowly, eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on Vanessa. She gave him an encouraging nod. He unfolded the paper and cleared his throat. "My name is Toby," he began, voice clear despite the tremble in his small hands. "And this is what I wrote." The courtyard hushed. "I used to think rich people were people who wore nice clothes and drove big cars. People with gates and guards. People you couldn't talk to unless you were important. But then, one day, I saw someone rich in a different way." He glanced at Vanessa. "She didn't just give me food or money. She gave me something else. She saw me. She didn't see a street boy. She didn't see my dirty shirt. She saw my heart. And that made me feel like maybe I mattered, too." People began dabbing their eyes. Vanessa blinked slowly, her composure cracking. her throat tightening. I didn't know what a rich person was until I met someone who gave me love without asking for anything back, Toby continued. She changed my life not with what she bought, but with what she gave from inside her. She gave me hope, and now I want to give that to other people too, just like she did. He smiled shyly, then added, softer, thank you for seeing me that day, not as a poor boy, but as a person. A beat of silence fell across the schoolyard like a sacred pause. Then came the applause, thunderous, rising from every corner. Toby stepped down, his eyes wide, his smile stretching as Vanessa met him at the foot of the stairs. She knelt and hugged him tightly, her designer dress creased, makeup smudged slightly, and none of it mattered. The moment wasn't perfect. It was real. All around them, children played. Parents watched. A few government officials took photos for their press release, but Vanessa didn't notice. Her world had narrowed to this one boy and the warmth of this one day. Later, as the event wound down and families filtered out, Toby and Amara sat with Vanessa beneath a tree just behind the school building. They sipped Zobo from small paper cups, sharing quiet laughter as the sun dipped behind the tin roofs of the surrounding community. Amara leaned her head on her grandmother's shoulder. Toby played with a twig, then looked up at Vanessa. Do you think Monday knows? He asked. She smiled gently. I think Monday sees everything. He nodded, satisfied. Vanessa watched them for a long time. No meeting, no investor, no luxury event had ever given her this feeling. It was joy, but also something deeper, something still, like peace. As the camera slowly pulled away from them, a soft voice overplayed Vanessa's own voice. Contemplative, honest, new. Sometimes the richest people have nothing. No power, no title, no spotlight. But what they give, their love, their time, their kindness can change the world. One person, one heart, one moment at a time. Fade out.